Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Hope you are smoking strong. It's your boy Milwaukee L Dog. I am here smoking good weed as always. Breaking news. Damn, I think. Hold on. Breaking news. Breaking news. Breaking news. We got some shit going on over at Russia. And Canadian Prepper is covering it. God damn it. So shouts out to Canadian Prepper. Roll your weed up. God damn it. Now's the time. I love you all. But roll that shit up. Stop being cheap. Do not be cheap. Don't be cheap. It's your boy Mark Yo Dog, Colorado's own cannabis industry ambassador. Let's go. See what the Canadian Prepper's talking about, man. Might flip out, man. All right, here we go. Canadian
Hi,
Prepper.
folks. Canadian Prepper here, back again with the daily dose of doom and gloom. Guys, this is going to be one of my most important installments of the year. Okay, I'm going to be providing you with some unique insights that you absolutely are not going to hear anywhere else, gained through painstaking analysis of the data. And you can see by the map, we got the receipts, we got some graphs, we got some images, some quotes. It's looking like a Hollywood murder mystery wall up in here. But everything you are hearing about the events of the day, or 90% of it, anyways, that you're hearing on the legacy networks is likely false, at least by omission. Now, starting off with the U.S. and Russian Air Force engagement in the Black Sea, which was deliberate on both sides' parties, the deliberate provocation by the U.S. and it was also a deliberate bring down, not shoot down or spilling diesel or jet fuel on the windshield or whatever it is they're saying. It was very deliberate, likely electronic warfare. So this is what I was tracking just a couple days ago, okay, on flight radar. And oddly enough, this is the same drone, I think. It's probably the exact same one. And oddly enough, I had a subscriber message me and they're like, hey, do you see this drone over the Black Sea, this M4 Reaper drone? I'm like, yes, they do this regularly, but thanks to the info, it's only a matter of time before one gets shot down. That was yesterday afternoon. Okay. And then sure enough, lo and behold, today, one gets brought down. Where did it get brought down? Well, right off the coast of Crimea, as you can see there. It's flight path extending from
Yeah.
Romania into Crimea. And guess what? The Russians have
You
captured
got to
it.
get an
No,
act on this
it
time. You
wasn't
always
because
keeping your
Boris was
phones.
drinking vodka and he was clumsy and he ran into it like they're trying to say on the mainstream. That has nothing to do with it. It's very likely it was brought down by electronic warfare deliberately at the location where it was brought down so it could be captured and reverse engineered and sent to the Iranians, just like everything else that the Russians are capturing and sending to the Iranians, apparently. That's according to CNN, so take that one with a grain of salt. But they're saying that all the javelins and the stingers and all that stuff is sending it all to Iran to reverse engineer, all part of building alliances with their whoever they can build alliances with right now. So that was a major escalation. Now this was incredibly deliberate. Okay, and I should probably go over everything we're going to talk about first. I said I was going to do a summary, and we're already diving into it, but it was deliberate, and there's a reason, and we're likely going to see NATO fighter jets next in the Black Sea. So get ready for that. The global financial collapse, as far as I can tell, has been slightly deferred. But make no mistake, it's inevitable. The Fed has two choices. They can raise interest rates, which is going to cause more banks to collapse, more banks that are holding on to what is it, 620 billion in these unrealized losses in treasury bonds, or they can pivot and they can start printing money again and they can start lowering interest rates and the party can start again, the hyperinflationary party, right? So you can have blood in the streets because people's money that they have lots of won't buy anything, or you'll have blood in the streets because people have no money because they can't get out of the bank. Take your pick. One of those things
Yeah.
is inevitable.
That
And I
lets
have
you
a
know they're
fun
playing with your
little play
brain.
on words here, and that is essentially that. Looks like my white balance just changed. Is that what happened? Anyways, uh, the fun little play on words is that all treasury bonds are war bonds. Okay, war
So you
bonds
got a
are
cheaper
things that
phone.
are issued in a time of war to help support the war effort. You know, they were
You are
selling all these
just
things in the
you,
United
and
States
you
back
don't
in
like
the
being
in World War
the
II
one
because
who
they
not
needed to
getting a
fund
new
the
phone.
war. War is expensive, and so they realized, hey, we're probably going to win this war. So we can sell some war bonds. In fact, they're doing it in Ukraine. I don't know how that's going to turn out. There's going to be a lot of angry people at the end of it. But effectively, if you're the global reserve currency, then your treasury bonds are effectively war bonds because he who has the biggest army in the world also has the biggest bank vault. and also has the most protected bankroll. And that's the currency everybody is going to want. Even your enemies are going to want US dollars. Believe it or not, Russians and the Chinese benefit from having a global reserve currency. They just don't particularly want it to be the US who is holding it, especially now that they're breathing down their necks. Okay, we're going to talk about that in greater detail. But effectively, the government is insolvent. The system's going to collapse. It's only a matter of time. So keep on prepping. It's not going to be in vain. Quick sidebar here, guys. This is what the elites are putting in their bunkers. I just made a video about this stuff not too long ago. You can buy that patriotic dog food garbage that you're mass marketed. Here's something to understand. The people who are best at marketing and best at putting something in front of your face are typically take the least pride in their work. Okay, they put it all into marketing and they take that all from the quality of the product. Look at this. Freeze-dried sirloin steaks, freeze-dried ground beef, even for you Soylent Green soy boys out there, freeze-dried avocado slices. Imagine chowing down on that 30 years into the apocalypse. These guys make stuff for the government. They make stuff for the DOD, for Richie Rich and all his friends down there in New Zealand getting ready for nuclear winter. Okay, they're getting ready for it. Look at this. Freeze-dried beef taquitos. I mean, taquitos, is that how you say it? Taquitos? Taquitos?
I don't know. He's
freeze-dried banana
advertising it out here, so it must be good.
They got it all. They got about 100 different things. Now, if you're like me, you like your peak refuel in your mountain house because it's pre-made meals. This allows you to mix and match. This is if you're going to have your own butler in your bunker, and then they can mix and match and make you cuisine. That's why the rich want this. They want the raw ingredients.
He said the rich want this because it's raw ingredients.
Yeah, I just thought I would, because 15% off is a pretty damn good deal. I can tell you right now that the owner of this company is top notch.
That wasn't I know about.
As good as they come, man. Trust me on that. Okay.
So he's talking about it.
As I was saying, we got two choices: hyperinflation or banking system collapse. The system will reset within 2 years minimum, I do believe. You have the US, Australia, and the UK doing some provocation in the China front with nuclear submarines that they say, of course, are not going to be used to have nuclear weapons on them. They're just, just for nuclear power, just so we can have them out to sea for long periods of time. Right. I got a bridge to sell you to somewhere. Now, understand what's going on with China right now. This is what nobody's going to tell you. This is the stuff you guys come to this channel for. The Chinese philosophy of war, they wrote The Art of War. And one of the core tenets of The Art of War is let your plans be stealthy and then blitzkrieg. Okay, the exact quote is something to the effect of let your plans be dark as night and strike down like a thunderbolt that illuminates the darkness in a split second. Okay, that's how you should wage war. You should make your enemy think that you want to negotiate, that you want to be peaceful, and that's exactly what China is doing now. They're going to the various different places. He's going to Moscow right now to meet Vladimir Putin. You had them just broker a deal between the Iranians and the Saudis. So they're really coming together. They're really putting on this facade. That's what I think it is, which is not to say, and I know that that's something you would likely hear a warmongering neocon say. But if I was the Chinese and I had to, I felt it was existentially important for me to take Taiwan. This is the sort of charade I would put on before I actually embarked down that path. And that would be perfectly in line with how they wage war. In other news, we have bird flu everywhere, infecting everything, infecting every species. It's now in skunks in Vancouver. It's only a matter of time. It's all going to start popping up at the same time everywhere at once. And hey, might as well just get the gain of function going because the way things are going, it's not going to matter. All right, let's talk about what's going on in the Black Sea. I kind of briefly hinted at this. They're saying the jet crashed. They're saying that Boris, in his drunken stupor, hit it with the wing, and that's what brought it down, and the propellers, and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that for a second.
Story. I believe it's a bullshit story too. What I just told you about the gasoline going on the thing.
Infiltration of the airspace, and it was a very deliberate takedown of the jet. And while this is happening, right now in Crimea, the Russians are fortifying the Crimean Peninsula. They're putting down all of these fortifications along the beach, as you can see here, and they're preparing for an invasion that is supposed to come in spring. Now, we always hearing about this, the winter offensive, the spring offensive. It seldom seems to materialize in a sensational way as we all envision. But one thing we know right now is that the Russians are starting to issue more military summons for service in Crimea, and they're starting to rally the troops in northern Crimea in mass, clearly preparing for some sort of ground invasion. Do the Russians believe that the Ukrainians are going to make a breakthrough here in Melitopol?
Mushrooms.
They may be. Right now, the Ukrainians are holding strong in Bakhmut, so they say, but I think that's just a bit of a phase as well. Because right now, a very similar situation has happened in Mariupol, where in the Azovstal steel plant, there was all these underground networks. And Bakhmut is actually an old war town as well. And there's all of these underground tunnels. Okay, and there's hundreds of troops in these tunnels. So this isn't just an above ground urban warfare. This is subterranean in a city which was built for war, which is probably why it's taking so long.
I'm using them to cook my dinner.
That going on. But what's really happening, the reason why this drone situation is so important is because it's the countdown to invading Crimea is on. And it appears that NATO is trying to do something to provoke the Russians to justify a presence in the region. NATO may ramp up presence in Black Sea.
I don't know. I just held it back and drugs up.
After this robot was down.
Illegal drugs.
This is according to a former U.S. military general, but these guys are kind of canaries in the coal mine. They kind of tell you what's coming next. U.S. Army General Mark Hertling has said this is probably a big mistake by a Russian pilot. There's going to be a denouncement of this and a demarche issued by the United States. You're not going to see any drones flying alone. You may see U.S. aircraft, NATO aircraft, intensifying their presence in the Black Sea area within hours. Okay, this is from Newsweek now. So
that's the game.
This is pretty stupid because imagine if there were drones, an equivalent to the M4 Reaper drones flying around on our coastline. What do you think we would do? Obviously, we'd shoot it down, even if it was in international water, or it'd be a huge fiasco.
Right.
So clearly, the Russians, whether you think that they should be in Crimea or not, from their perspective, from the perspective of this being a war zone, whereas you can clearly see this is all a no-fly zone here, okay? And if you have your transponder off and you're flying around here, you're a target. I mean, that plane should have been shot down by missile defense, you think. This one here is doing this because they're spying on what's going on in Crimea, and you can see this is kind of the limit with which planes will get close to, fly over this no-fly zone, this unofficial no-fly zone in the Black Sea. It's not officially enforced. It's just that's where planes don't go because they don't want to get shot down or intercepted, as you would expect. So clearly, this was a clear-cut provocation, okay? And I said this very thing yesterday. I knew it was just a matter of time before this gets shot down. And sure enough, it's happened. And a politician who's oppositional to the Russian president has said that Russia will, in fact, use nuclear weapons to defend Crimea, that it's not a threat. This is a very strategic location for the Russians. They're not willing to let this go. So the fact that we're doing these sort of things to provoke shows you how desperate the powers that be are right now. Does this have to do with taking attention away from the looming financial crisis? It very well could be. I mean, I'm not one to always jump to, oh, this is taking attention away from this and this and this. At the end of the day, it's not hard to put one over people. I mean, yeah, you want to prevent bank runs, but they've pretty much already effectively deferred that a little bit. It appears as though the markets have calmed down now that the Fed has stepped in and said, don't worry, we're going to make sure you don't lose money. People aren't so worried about bank runs, but bank runs can happen at the speed of light nowadays because everything's connected online, okay? Now, what the Poles are going to do is they're going to send MiG-29 jets in the next 4 to 6 weeks. The Ukrainians have already had those, but now they're going to get more. We have more rhetoric on Russian state-sponsored media that they're going to nuke the UK with Poseidon missiles. You have Rishi Sunak saying that they're going to start to bolster their nuclear defenses around the same time as they are working with the Australians to build nuclear submarines, which absolutely will have nuclear weapons on them, contrary to what a lot of people are saying. They're saying, well, Joe Biden said they won't. Yes, they will. They absolutely 125% will. This is all the military bases surrounding China. Okay, this is all the U.S. military bases surrounding China. So you can clearly see that the Chinese know what's going on. They know what time it is. They're going to keep their plans as dark as night. And when everybody thinks that they've been pacified, that's when they're probably going to strike. That would be the smart thing to do from their perspective. North Korea, right now, things could break out on the North Korean peninsula any hour. Okay, South Koreans and the Americans are doing drills. The North Koreans are burning a missile a day. And now already the Americans are starting to contemplate whether or not they should be shooting these missiles down because they pose a threat to air traffic, and it's unofficial no-fly zone. So
mushroom dust.
It's only a matter of time before things pop off on the Korean Peninsula. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
I do not condone the use or purchase or sale
it's really just
or resale of any type of illegal substance at all.
Picking the day that he wants it to all go down at this point in time. You can see here by this graph, these are all the banks in America.
Those are good, though.
Okay? This little dot here is the Silicon Valley Bank, $209 billion. You can see the big four are about to probably absorb a lot of the larger regional banks that people are losing faith in because they're holding a lot of these treasury bonds that are decreasing in value because the Fed keeps raising interest rates. So eventually what likely will happen is a consolidation into the big four banks, but these four banks are still enduring a similar situation. And then, of course, how much debt can they take on from these smaller banks that are being backstopped by the Fed? So what the Fed is doing, they say it's not a bailout, but it's inflationary activity because the money has to come to backstop from somewhere. You could say swap this and asset swap and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, if these losses are realized, those losses have to be paid for somehow. And if they're paid through some elaborate form of quantitative easing, that increases inflation. That's why they say, yes, the taxpayer does indeed pay for it. It's not like a bailout in the sense that the taxpayer paid one-to-one, but the taxpayer ultimately pays in the form of inflation because they have to print more money. Look at this, guys. Look at this. This is how much unrealized losses in investment securities these banks have. This is 2022, okay? This is how bad the market is doing. And at the same time as this is happening, okay, take a look at this. This is why I'm saying all treasury bonds are war bonds. Defense budget speeds towards $1 trillion. Where are you getting that kind of money? When you got this happening, it's because treasury bonds are war bonds. The only way anybody's cashing in any of those treasuries at their maturity, and the only way everybody's going to be able to do that is if we win the war and we pacify and subdue everybody, and we're able to retain our global reserve currency status, which right now it's do or die. So we are essentially then treasury bonds or war bonds. You could write a whole article about that for Vice or something if you want to. I don't have time to do it, but something interesting little play on words there. Did I talk about this already? Okay, everybody's like, Joe Biden's going to drill in Alaska. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter one bit. And whether you're pro or against, it doesn't matter. You know why? We're talking about maybe at best a month's worth of oil for the entirety of the United States. This is a 600 million barrel reservoir. I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out that even the best reservoirs, you're likely only going to be able to lucratively, financially extract around 30% maximum. They say it's between 5 and 30% of that reservoir. So if we're nice and we say, okay, they get 30% of this 600 billion. Let's be even nicer. Let's just say 200 billion, 200 million barrels of oil is what they get. The United States uses 20 million barrels a day. So you're telling me that this huge fuss, okay, over this potential 200 million barrels of oil that's going to last 10 days, and people are cheering this like it's some kind of victory. Guys, if you haven't realized it yet, there is an energy crisis. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. When they say they got a certain amount in the ground, that doesn't mean that it's lucrative to extract it because it takes energy to make energy. So this is why this is happening. This is no accident. This is the depletion of our petroleum reserves, strategic petroleum reserves. You can see it's back down to like 1984 levels. Okay. And how many people were there in the United States in 1984? How much energy did they consume per capita? We're talking about our energy needs have probably tripled, if not quintupled, quadrupled since that time. So, I mean, it's going to get worse. And this is why people are sleeping on oil right now. The price of oil is going to skyrocket. It has to, because we're in most cases, barring something happens in Venezuela to get that oil flowing, in most cases, we're past peak production. And the Saudis aren't wanting to open the spigot anymore. Some people say they can't even open the spigot, which is why they're not. And you have the Russians who've been now cut out of the market for the most part, but there's still people getting it, but through roundabout sort of ways to circumvent the sanctions. But it's not just like we have this unlimited supply that oil is everywhere. People will say oil is everywhere, and it is to an extent, but it takes energy to get that. And the pressure in these reserves reduces over time. It's not like back in the Jebediah days where, Jeb and his family were out hunting and they shot the ground and the crude spilled up and it was that easy. Now you got to put more energy into the process. So something to think about. If you didn't think that conflict, climate, and contagion is bad enough, we also have a crisis of commerce for sure, but we also have a commodities crisis. Okay, we're talking about peak gold coming. We've already passed peak gold. They're saying that peak gold mining is, I think that was in 2019, 2020 or something like that. And that most of the known gold reserves will be mostly depleted by the mid 2030s. So, how much do you think gold is going to be worth in the future? We got, I mean, everything is just being exhausted, materially exhausted. All wars are resource wars, and that's exactly what is going on with Russia. And understand, the wealthy, the elites, people ask, well, why can't we just use this oil here? It's not because they care about the animal. It's not because they care about the environment. It's because they're smart enough to know that eventually oil is going to become scarce. And it's better if we can pay a little bit more to take other people's oil and then keep ours in the ground as a real deal strategic reserve for later. Okay, the smart money knows we got to keep this oil in the ground because someday it's going to be $300 to $500 a barrel. That's why they're keeping it in the ground. People are like, "Oh, we gotta, gotta use it all, everything." We can. Okay, well, that's not strategic to think that way. You buy it right now, even if you buy it at $150 a barrel right now. I'm telling you, someday that's going to seem dirt cheap, and all of this oil that we haven't exploited yet on the North American continent that we could, if we wanted to, it will all make sense because come that time, it's going to make financial sense to do so. Anyways, in Vancouver, we got skunks found dead in Metro Vancouver, and they had avian flu. What were they doing? Were they eating the birds? Were they eating the bird poop? Who knows? They were doing something, and this is just one more mammal, that is catching this disease, and you get more rodents and creatures like that who have the disease. It's only a matter of time before it spreads more to humans. And so this clearly isn't a bird flu pandemic anymore. Is it spread species, like intraspecies yet? It's hard to say. In the sea lions, it appears so because thousands of them are dying to the tune of almost 5% of the population of sea lions of one country. I think it was Peru that have basically kicked the bucket. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's not something to be ignored. It's going to be, mark my words, guys, in the next 2 years, we're going to see a financial reset and we're going to see a major bird flu pandemic. And we might, see nuclear Armageddon as well. I mean, the way things are going. Peter Thiel, did I talk about this? He bought $50 million worth of gold. He's the guy, him and his buddies initiated the whole thing. They initiated this whole run against SWB because they noticed that the bank was insolvent by about $15 billion in all these treasuries that it had that had these unrealized losses. And so the bank was underwater. So they're like, hey, it's time to bail. Phoned up his buddy, said, you better pull your money out of the bank. And that was it. And that triggered the run. This is the same guy who was one of the primary investors in companies like Facebook, PayPal, companies that are now the de facto social media arms of the CIA and the NSA and all those other government organizations. So I don't know. I'm really starting to wonder what's going on here. Panic on Twitter helped bring down Silicon Valley Bank. Absolutely. Like I said, guys, we've never had a bank run at light speed, and that's what this was. And that was the first thing that occurred to me when this was happening was like in 1929, you had to do a lot of things to go down to the bank. It wasn't easy. You probably had to ride a horse in a lot of cases or ride a trolley or whatever, just walk, for a long time to go and do it. It was a chore. And, you could only do so many transactions a day. Nowadays, the push of a button, bank runs happen like that. This kind of stuff can get wildly out of hand overnight. That's why the Fed was panicking. And all they've done is they've deferred it to another day. The day of reckoning is going to come. I just told it spit all over my desk. I've been talking too long. That is nasty. All right, guys. That said, if you want to get some food, freeze-dried food. We don't sell this at CanadianPreparedness.com, preparedness.com, but you can get it from Wholesale Freeze Draws. I'm going to post a coupon code in the description and the top comment that I'm going to pin. You can get yourself some high-quality food. This is what the government and the elites are going to eat after the proverbial shizzy hits the fizzy. High-quality stuff, and that's money. That's the original money. Okay? Good luck after the apocalypse trying to barter for somebody, even with gold in a lot of cases. I mean, because people are going to be looking for stuff they can use. They're going to be looking for energy. And that's really all preppers do is we store energy. We store it in the form of fuel to run the generators, fuel to run our bodies, fuel in the form of hydration, fuel in the form of medical supplies. It's all just storing energy. The sun gave all this energy to us, and we're trying to store as much of it away for hard times as we can. Let me know what you think about this, that, and everything else in the comment section. But understand that this is it. It's going down right now, and they're going to keep us occupied with crisis after crisis as this economic system unfolds. The crises are only going to keep compounding, which means we got to keep on prepping and get ourselves squared away for when the 0 day finally becomes apparent. Thanks for watching, my friends. And I also want to say it appears that today we've crossed the 1 million subscriber mark. And then I asked myself, oh, that's incredible. That's amazing. Now what goal can I have next? 2 million? 10 million? It really doesn't matter. It's just a number. What matters most is that, each and every one of you who supported the channel over the years, that leaves positive feedback. I can't say enough, positive things about you, and I don't take you for granted. I want you to know that. Everybody who takes the time to watch these videos, which is why I put so much work into them, because I understand that your time is valuable, and it's been a long 9 years, and I don't want to tear up, so I'm going to cut the camera off right now. But thanks, guys. It's been a very tall mountain to climb, and I hope someday we can even get to 10 million. Let's see what happens. Thanks for watching, my friends. and you take care. Canadian Prepper out.
That was Canadian Prepper. I am Milwaukee Elk Dog. If you are watching me on YouTube, you guys can always come back. God damn it. Just make sure you press that bell notification so you can be notified every time I drop a video. And otherwise, yeah, man, you guys are cool as hell. I love you all. This is why I do this, man. This is why I do this for you guys, man. I love you all on YouTube. I love you all on Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to fade you guys out now. Bye-bye. Bye. Love you.